Hello and thank you for joining me on this foodoffensive.com weekly video broadcast. Here we are again. We ended up last week with the genetically engineered salmon, ending our series of special reports on genetically modified foods. Of course, we're always going to go back to that because that's the main thing, that's my main focus. That's why I chose to do those series of videos first. Now I'm moving right along and I picked the second topic of high fructose corn syrup. Now this is a big issue for me. It's in so many products, and as we looked at in the genetically modified series, corn is in everything. And not only is high fructose corn syrup bad, which we're going to look at, but it's made from corn. So how much of that is getting transferred over into the corn syrup? And when you look at soda nowadays, when you look at candies, when you look at other foods, soda especially, the number one ingredient is high fructose corn syrup. And if you probably already know this, that usually they list the ingredients for the as the major ones first, the amount that's in there greater. So when high fructose corn syrup is the first thing, we've got problems. And we're going to look at this in a series of a few videos. Again, trying to keep these short and simple, a little bit more dialed in until we start doing more of a TV type production where we're doing a full half-hour segment. But high fructose corn syrup, we're going to get into what it is, and then later on how it's made, and then how we can avoid it, things like that. But going in this week, as you can see here, hopefully on the document cam, Natural News kind of breaks it down quite simply. They say HFCS explained. Now, if you see HFCS, it stands for high fructose corn syrup. It's a quick way to put it there because it's an acronym for a much longer word, obviously. But they say here's why it is far more dangerous to your health than table sugar. And it goes on to say high fructose corn syrup is a popular sweetener because it is chemically different from sugar. It has a longer shelf life and mixes better into beverages. Yet the corn industry likes to downplay these differences, pointing out that sugar is 50% fructose and 50% glucose, while high fructose corn syrup is 50% fructose and 45% glucose. This framing glosses over an essential difference, which is this: sugar, or sucrose, is a disaccharide comprised of a single glucose molecule into a single fructose molecule. High fructose corn syrup, in contrast, is a liquid solution composed of separated individual glucose and fructose molecules, or monosaccharides. So it goes on into explaining kind of the science of it, and there's links there. And it goes on to say that high fructose corn syrup is, not surprisingly, is linked to diabetes. So we've got all these health issues that are off the charts. I mean, cancer's exploded, infertility, girls going into puberty early, boys being more feminine. There's been animal studies where shrimp are kind of just, going up right up to the predator, right up to their predator, and being eaten without any kind of natural, no more natural kind of like instinct, animal instinct. And is it because it's the water that's going into the oceans? Is it, waste? Is it whatever? Well, when it comes to our body, it's the food we're putting into our body. We think about, I need to watch my sugar intake. I need to watch my fat intake. I need to be on a carb diet. I need to count my carbs. I go beyond that in these videos that I do in this weekly broadcast and in my website at foodoffensive.com. And I really get into the fact of, let's not worry so much, or our first filter on our food should be, where does it come from? What's the source? What's our food supply? Is it contaminated? What's the integrity of our food supply? And so I really go into that. I really look into that, and that's our first filter. And then you got to watch what you eat. But just going down the line, and your first filter should be, what is in your food? What's causing the issues? We just have to I can't help but compare with all the things that have gone off the charts. I mean, autism has exploded, breast cancer, things like that. I want to look for a cure for those things. a cause more than a cure right now. I want to look at a cause of those things, and obviously a cure is necessary for those that have currently are afflicted with those diseases. But let's look for a cause also. Let's look for what let's cut it off at the pass here. Cut off the issue at the pass. So high fructose corn syrup, it's a highly, it's an alternative sweetener. Obviously mixes with drinks well. That's why you see it in beverages, a lot of sodas, and it's cheap. It's cheap to make, and it's, with all this overabundance of corn, they can take this corn syrup, make it, and on that note, on making the corn syrup, when I get into it next week, we're going to look at the fact that these factories won't let you see the process. I mean, it's a highly chemical process, and it's also been shown, as you see in this article here, that it's contaminated with mercury and made using a toxic chemical catalyst that can burn a hole in your stomach. That's from naturalnews.com as well. And it's just, we need to really link what's going on here with what we're eating. I mean, it's a clear indication, and people can say, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist for thinking that everyone's out to get you, or they're intentionally doing these things." I don't know about that. And in some cases, yes, there are some intentionality to it, but sometimes it's a cost thing for a company, watching your bottom line, using a cheaper product, an overabundance of something, and turning it into profit. Evil can be if they know that these things are causing problems. So that's what we're going to get into in this series of special reports on GMOs, and this particular one being high fructose corn syrup. That's just a quick and brief overview of what high fructose corn syrup is, and I would recommend immediately doing away with it altogether as far as your intake, if at all possible. There are soda alternatives that have real sugar in them. Certainly don't go to diet soda, because that's even worse for you with the chemical additives and the chemical sweeteners in there. But I've cut out everything. When I look at a package, that's the first thing I check. Barbecue sauce, ketchup, major products that we eat, it's laden with these products. So we need to be very careful. But remember, vote with your dollars. There is ketchup now without high fructose corn syrup, even from the major manufacturers. And I'd like to possibly bring some of that in and show it to you. And maybe when we're doing our store videos, when we go through the store, kind of show the labels, what to avoid, what not to avoid. And I hope you saw my video on the non-GMO shopping guide. That kind of covers, what to buy, what not to buy, how to avoid the GMO products. And then we're going to do the same thing with the high fructose corn syrup, how to avoid those items. Obviously, if it's in there, don't eat it. It's pretty straightforward, but we're going to look at that and look at some of the hidden things in there, the health effects more, get deeper into the research on the health effects that they've done, the health studies, and then also how it's made, try to get as much information as we can that has been released into, really how is this stuff made, and why we should avoid it. So that's it for this week's foodoffensive.com weekly video broadcast. In an attempt to shorten these up a little bit, we're ending there, and we thank you for joining us on here, coming at you from the front lines of our food supply. Thank you for joining me.